Desirae.
Your stuff that you send sounds so good. I am super impressed, and you would never know that we hadn't had a lesson in this long. You're playing great. Your hands especially look really good on all your technique that you're using. So way to go, just right off the bat. Hope school is off to a good start for you. And here we go. So your theory, you just knocked it totally out of the park. You must be a rhythm master by now with how much that you did, and it's all perfect, and all of your ands are beautifully placed, and your bar lines are correct, and it just looks beautiful. So well done on that. The next thing that we'll do for next week, we're gonna go to just one page so you get a little bit of a break from that rhythm marathon. Now the next page we'll do is page 20, which is still rhythm. But here, we're taking a look at this combination of dotted quarter notes and eighth notes. And we've seen this before, we've played this in songs. I believe we actually have this rhythm in a couple things we're actually working on right now. So it won't look totally brand new, but it is important to review how that rhythm will look and feel. So what you're gonna do on page 20 is the first half of the page is just them kind of showing you the breakdown of what that rhythm does. Then you'll only have to do section number 25 on this page. So all they want you to do is write in the counts underneath. Now, what I also want for you to do for next week is to either clap and count out loud or play through some of these examples here. They give you 3 examples to do. Let me have you send me a video of either clapping and counting or playing through the examples, but you just have to do 2 of the 3. So you can pick which 2 you'd prefer to do. They give you 2 examples for right hand and 1 for left hand. So completely up to you, but all different time signatures and all working on feeling this dotted quarter note followed by an eighth note pattern. What that boils down to is the dotted quarter note will be 1 and 2, and then the eighth note comes in on the and. Right? So you end up with 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and for a feel. Okay, so that will be our theory. Give it a go, see how it goes. If we run into problems, just make sure that you include that for your lesson next week on either a video or just write me a note so that way we can spend a little more time breaking down that rhythm, making sure it totally makes sense. All right, de-arpeggios look great. You're being really careful, making sure you're getting all the right fingering all the way through. Looks beautiful. We actually just did 3 octaves, which I know can be kind of confusing. Remember, we always want to do 4 with the arpeggios, but it's confusing because in order to do 3 octaves, each hand actually plays 4 Ds, right? Because you would start on a D, that's 1. But by the time I get to the second D, that's just 1 octave, right? So it's 2 Ds for 1 octave, 3 Ds for 2. So it kind of can be a little bit hairy. All you have to remember is that if you want to do 4 octaves, each hand actually needs to play 5 Ds, okay? So I think you did 3 octaves on your video. It was very well done. We're not gonna, have to do that again just to get the extra octave on there. Just wanted to point that out for the next time that we do arpeggios, just to make sure if you want 4 octaves, you have to cover 5 of the note that you're doing the arpeggios for, okay? All right, for our technique for next week, we are gonna start the E inversions, and you should have this page already in your technique section of your binder. It'll be under the inversions for DAE title. So we've done inversions for D and for A. Now we're going to do them for the key of E. Remember, this is just taking an E chord and changing around the order of the notes so that we get an actual different sound, even though it'll be the same chord, right? In order to be an E chord, we need to have the notes E, G sharp, and B. Right? Make sure you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. Right? E, G sharp, and B. But for the inversions, this is what we would call an E chord in root position, right? If we take the E off the bottom and move it to the top, it's a little bit of a different sound, still an E chord. That's first inversion. And then if we change the order again, with B as the bottom note, we get the second inversion chord. And I know we've done this before, I'm just giving you a little reminder since we aren't going through it together, what that breaks down to. So you'll end up with root position, first inversion, second inversion, go up to root position again, and then we come all the way back down until we're back where we started at root position, okay? It's all the same fingering that we have done before when we worked on inversions, and it's also on your paper in the technique part of your binder. So if you have any questions, please let me know, but we'll go ahead and just start that hands alone, and then when you feel comfortable with it, put it hands together on your own and see how it goes, okay? All right, on to our music here. So the Marines hymn is looking very good. I'm gonna open that up here. Okay, so I actually just have a couple really little things to remind you of for this week, and the rest, I mean, overall, you did a wonderful job on this piece. So the first little thing is just something that I think we forgot and is going to be super easy to fix, and it's just that you have a repeat sign on that first line, okay? So the A section is kind of that main theme, right? The da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-da-da, that sort of melody there. So that's our first line, but we're actually going to play that twice because our form on this song is A-A-B-A. Twice through the A section, then a little bit of a different section, which is your second line, that's the B section, and then back to that original theme for the A section one more time, which is the third line. So that's the first thing, easy fix. If you want to circle it in your music just to help you remember, or draw an arrow, or something or other, whatever makes you remember that you have to go back and repeat, go for it. And then the next thing just has to do with some of our eighth notes. And that, I think, was the main thing we were working on before with this song. And we are really close. We just have a couple little places where we actually just want some of our notes to come through a little bit faster. So the first place is actually the very first three notes that your left hand plays. So you start with C, E, G, right? And again, I know it's been a while since we went over this together. It's probably gonna come right back to you once you hear me say it again, but I'll still show you anyway, just in case that helps. So when we have those two eighth notes to start, remember this is our pickup, right? The song doesn't start with a full complete measure. It only starts with these two eighth notes, which would only get one count, which doesn't work in 4/4 time, right? But it's an upbeat or a pickup, it has a couple different names. And so we count that as coming in basically at the end of a measure, but we cut off the beginning part of the measure where there would have just been a bunch of rests. So here we have two eighth notes going into the quarter note, right? So we just want those eighth notes to come a little faster. Right now we're kind of playing them as if they were also quarter notes. So instead of this pattern where each note kind of gets the same duration, we want something more like this. So you can hear at the beginning those first two notes, almost like they're kind of zooming right into the first full measure with all of those quarter note G's for the left hand, okay? So we want to just float right through those eighth notes, get them a little bit faster so that we can get to our main quarter notes. So then the next place we have that is also in the first line, and it's at the end of measure 2. So this is after we've done our awesome, speaking of the dotted quarter followed by an eighth note rhythm, right, for your theory. We have this in measure 2, right? And you're doing it perfectly there. So we get to measure 2 and we have, right, at the end, after that measure, or not that measure, that rhythm with the dotted quarter and the eighth note, we have more eighth notes for the left hand, right? It's that same kind of idea. 2 eighth notes at the end of the measure going into a new measure with quarter notes. So we just want those eighth notes to come through a little bit faster. So instead, what we would get is, starting at measure 2, right? And you can hear how it kind of rolls it on into the next measure because those eighth notes happen a little bit faster, okay? So that's the main, well, I guess that's 3 areas, but it's really 2 things, right? We just want to remember that repeat on the first line. And then we have some of those 8th notes that we just want to play in a little bit faster, okay? So give that a try this week, see how it goes. You'll have it on the video here if it helps to hear it or to see it. You can always just check back there to remind yourself how it should go. But like I said, we're super close and this one sounds really good. You did a very nice job. Okay, next we have Tarantella. And this one, I'm curious because I wonder if when you were playing it, you were thinking, sounds kind of weird. And the reason is we need a B flat in the left hand. So what you had was perfect right hand, right? And then the left hand has kind of this happy sounding chord. So when you put it together, you end up with something that just kind of feels a little bit off, right? So remember, you also have a B flat in the left hand on those G chords. We want all of this to feel like it's in G minor, which has B flats. So we end up with instead something that sounds like both the hands belong together, okay? So that, again, really easy fix on that section. Hopefully that sounds a little bit nicer to you. And then those first 2 lines are looking really good. That's it. That was the only thing. So we're going to talk about the B section. We're going to go on in the piece for this week. Now the form for this song is not the same as the form for the Marines hymn that we just did. Marines hymn, we said, is A-A-B-A, right? We're going to repeat that first theme twice before we change to something different and then come back. While with the Tarantella, it's a little bit different. It's still a very common theme that we hear in a lot of music, but it's not the same as before. This time we're going to have our A section, and then we're not going to repeat it. We're going to go on to our B section, something different, and then we're going to come back again to the A section. So it's A-B-A without repeating that first theme at the very beginning, right? So speaking of the B section, that's really all we have left to learn. That's kind of the nice thing about songs that have some kind of ABA or AABA form. You get to play a fairly decently long song without having to learn something brand new all the way through, right? You get to come back at the end to the first thing you did, which should be familiar, and it's a little bit less to learn, but still sounds really impressive. So the B section now, both your hands are going to be moving around a little bit on this part, okay? So you're going to be changing positions for each hand pretty much all the way through the B section. Whereas for the A section, both your hands kind of just stay in one spot. You got some chord changes in the left hand, and then you're on your way. Well, B section's a little more fun. You get to move around a little bit more. So your left hand is going to start by first moving your 3rd finger down to E flat, okay? And then 2 measures later, you're going to move your left hand down again to start on B flat, okay? When you get to the 4th line, your left hand will move back up to that same 3rd finger on E flat that you started the 3rd line with. And then for the last 2 measures of the page, you get to do something a little bit more fun. You're going to move your thumb down to D, and then your pinky down to the D that's even lower than that. Okay? So what you end up with for the left hand, for your last 2 lines, is something like this. So you can see your hand gets to kind of bounce around a little bit. I think you will enjoy it. It's kind of fun to not just be stuck in one place, and it sounds so much more interesting. So now the right hand finished the A section with your thumb on G above middle C, right? Probably gonna need to move this again. There we go. Okay. So to start the B section, your right hand is gonna move down. so that your third finger is on the E flat right next to middle C. And then 2 measures later, you get to move down again. Now you'll notice you've got a lot of ledger lines here. All you really need to know is that your third finger is going to start on the B flat right next to middle C. And then the rest should feel okay as long as you're watching how your notes are moving, right? We've got a lot of steps here. Then you don't have to worry too much about trying to figure out all these ledger line notes. Then on the last line, we get to move that right hand back up to the third finger on E flat that we had before. And then for the last 2 measures, it's a little move. So your left hand has this big octave jump going on. Your right hand just has to shift down 1. So you're going to move that third finger down to D now to finish off the B section for the right hand. So all together for your right hand, here's what you end up with. Rest 2, 3. Of rest, and then you are all back to the A section. Okay. Oh, hello. Sorry. All right. So there we go. That is the Tarantella. We will start working on the B section, hands alone. Again, we just have to fix that B flat in the left hand for the A section, and everything else is looking really good. So you'll notice that the B section for this song, a lot of it is really hands alone. So it's kind of up to you. I'm just going to let you work at your own pace on this one for this week. If you want to try and put it hands together after a couple of days, once you're used to the notes, you're welcome to give it a try. If you'd rather just stick with hands alone and not really worry about it, just get comfortable there, that is totally okay too. It just depends on you know, what your practice is going to look like for the week, how much you're able to do, and how quickly it all kind of feels comfortable and makes sense to you. Okay, so just do what you can, go at your own pace, and then send me whatever you end up with next week for your lesson. All right, and that just leaves the Hannon. So Hannon number 4, we already put hands together. Good for you. Did a wonderful job with that. I think we had just gone over it hands alone when we left, so very, very nice job. Now with this one, I think you actually stopped 1 measure early. So remember, when you are finishing this one up for the first page, you are, let's see, that's middle C. So you are all the way up here. So you want to make sure that your last measure of the first page, you're starting that measure on B. So that the last notes you play are D, and then we go on to page 2, okay? So it may have just been that the camera got cut off early. If you are already doing that regularly in your practice, that's perfect. Just want to throw that out there in case you were not quite sure where to stop or had been stopping maybe in a different place. So you do want to make sure you go all the way to that D, which is the last note of the first page. Now we're going to go on to the second page for this week. We're going to start at hands alone just to get used to the pattern. Your right hand is going to start on that same G that you'll end the first page with, okay? So you're going to play G, F, G, and then your second finger goes down to D, and then here your thumb is going to shift down 1 key. It's kind of hard to see, to B here. So you've got G, F, G, second finger on D, thumb down to B, and then these fingers are all going to shift down 1 as well after that. So you just step right back up to finish the measure. Okay. So then your next measure, you would have F, E, F, C. Thumb moves down to A. Then all the other fingers follow. B, C, D. Okay. And that's going to continue all the way down to the very bottom of the page, where your last measure will start on A below middle C. Again, this is for your right hand. So A below middle C is your last measure. A, G, A, E. Thumb shifts down to C. All the other fingers follow. D, E, F. And then we end on our half note finally, C. Okay? So that's your right hand. Your left hand will do the same thing, just with different fingering. So left hand will start on the G above middle C here. And we play G, F, G. Now here, left hand is going to shift a little bit earlier than the right hand. So we just played the first 3 notes here. We're already going to scoot the 3rd finger down to D. And now all the rest of our fingers are set up to finish the measure. B, C, D, E. And we just walk it up. Okay? So that means then on the next measure, we'll start on F. My thumb kind of automatically came down there. So now we play measure 2, F, E, F, scoot down the 3rd finger, all the other fingers follow. Next measure is E, D, E, 3rd finger down to B, all the other fingers follow, and so on all the way down to the end of the page. Okay, so give it a try, see how it goes, and we will pick it up again next week with whatever you are able to do with it. All right? Okay, I think that is everything. So if you get stuck on anything, just shoot me a message and let me know. But again, just awesome job. You're doing such good playing and good practice. So have a great week, and I will see you next time.